Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Open Book. For those that are new to Open Book, let me start by saying I am Billy Price. I'm one of the two co-founders of Billy Footwear. We are a shoe brand out of Seattle, Washington. And one of the things I love about Open Book is it gives us the opportunity, given our shoes kind of with the wraparound zipper kind of opens up like a book and you're stepping into your story. We as a brand are an open book. We love to share our story, how we came to be, and we love to be able to give the opportunity to share a platform for others to share their story. So I am so excited because we have Shamar on screen today joining us. Shamar, welcome to Open Book.
Thank you, Billy. Thanks for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, I am excited to have you here. And I know we talked a little bit about before having you on, just kind of like a pre-call. And I know you have a very powerful story. And I would love, if you wouldn't mind, I would love to have you share your story with our guests that are joining us today on Open Book.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. So a trip down memory lane. so, like you guys know, my name is Shamar. I'm 25 years old at this moment. So 13 years ago, I was doing high jump for my high school back in Jamaica. So I was an athlete. And while running up to the high jump bar, my leg snapped. So I broke it in two places. And my school took me to a private doctor right after that. So my leg was placed in a cast about 30 minutes after the initial break. And that's when I would say my life changed. So the cast initially squeezed my leg, cut off blood flow, and I developed something that's called compartment syndrome. From the compartment syndrome, I've done 9 surgeries in Jamaica to fix my leg. Nothing worked. I did debridement, skin graft. My parents at the time signed for amputation 3 times. That didn't happen. And eventually, my dad was living in Canada and he decided that, hey, let's take you over here. Let's try and see how best we can get your leg fixed or see what other options are out there. So from the age of 12 until now, I've been using crutches. And last year, around September, I had what do they call it? A life-changing moment where I came to a decision, a crossroad where I had to say, do I want to walk with crutches for the rest of my life? Do I want to take the chance on doing the amputation and hopefully have a somewhat of a normal life? So after contemplating and talking with other people, doing my research, and just going through that process of just weighing the pros and the cons and looking into the future and saying, hey, what do I want for my future kids? I want to be there present, be present in their life, to take them to a soccer game, to eventually, walk my wife down the aisle. I just starting to think about everything and making a list. And my surgeon at the time reached out to the amputation department and they arranged a peer visitor for me. So I met a guy, his name is Sean. Sean was one of the guys who really opened my eyes into the whole amputation world and showed me that it's normal. You can have a normal life and that it's okay. So when I met with Sean, he walked in. I didn't know Sean had an amputation. I was looking for someone probably with a limp or someone just shows some form of physical disability, and I couldn't tell. So that was my first green flag. I was like, okay, he's normal. Nothing is wrong. I met with him. We talked. He told me he's playing hockey, how he went hiking, and he's been an amputee for over 10 plus years. So after meeting with him the following day, I called my surgeon. I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I'm doing this. So I decided to amputate my foot that September. The surgery was booked for January of this year. I did the amputation, which is called a SAMS amputation. It's not very common. In fact, I could only find probably a handful of people in the world who has this form of amputation. But life didn't stop right there. For some reason, I think I've been tested and tested for this purpose. I think my role or my purpose in life is to motivate others. And no matter what, I think I've always been going through just tests. So after the amputation, I thought, hey, this is it. I would walk, everything would be okay. I was so wrong. I had complications and complications because I have poor blood flow. I had skin issues. I currently have a huge wound on my leg that's healed, but whenever I wear the leg for too long, it reopen. And I'm just taking it one step at a time. I'm grateful because I went from not walking to using the crutches to now where I say I'm in between using the crutches and walking with my prosthetic. So it's progress, and for that, I'm grateful.
Wow. Well, so Shamar, first off, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being comfortable for sharing. And I'd love to be able to ask some follow-up questions here. I mean, so where, like the amputation, I'm guessing it sounds like it's below your knee. So is it just the foot? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so the prosthetic, can you talk about that? Like, so how does that work? Like, how does it attach to your leg? I mean, is it like, how much leg do you have below your knee?
Okay. So my amputation, like I said before, it's called Sam's amputation. So it's basically they removed my entire foot. So it's called ankle disarticulation. That's a fancier name for it. So they basically pull apart your ankle joint, and they preserve the heel pad. And yeah, I think that would be my residual limb. So from the knee down to the ankle, that's still there for me. So the foot is missing, and I have the leg. So my residual limb is super long, which makes it super difficult for prosthetic fitment. But my prosthesis and the interior team, they did a great job customizing a socket. It's very long. It's not too heavy, but because of the length of my residual limb, it makes it difficult to find a perfect foot. So right now I'm using a cheetah blade. That's an exterior mount that's placed at the back of my socket, which will basically act as the foot instead of a traditional below the knee socket where they can put a titanium rod at the bottom, the long part there, and just a regular foot. So mine is a bit different, and you guys would probably have to see it to understand what exactly it is.
Yeah.
But it's definitely different. Not very common.
And then, so I know you touched on it, but I think I missed it. How long ago was the operation?
So I did the operation on the 9th of January, 2024. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this year.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. All right. So yeah, a new world indeed.
Yeah. I've learned so much in that short span of time, but yeah, I think I was prepared for it in the sense that walking with the crutches for so long, it felt like I've already did the amputation. I feel like my foot was just there for cosmetic, like it was just there for looks, because I couldn't walk on it. My ankle was fixed. I had no sensation in the foot. Because of that, I get a lot of wounds, blisters. I'll cut myself without even knowing I'm cutting myself. So the foot was more of a burden than actually amputating it. And it took me a long time to actually realize that. So
yeah,
it wasn't a hard adjustment. I just really needed someone to say, hey, go and do it, which I think meeting Sean, he did that for me.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I mean, and I'd love to be able to take you all the way back to when you first had your injury, like in school. I mean, what can you recall where your mind was then? And the reason I ask that is because I know me personally, like when I broke my neck, I was 18 years old. I was a head first fall to concrete when I was a freshman in college. And it like my mind really went to a dark place. I had a very difficult time coping with this new reality because all I could think about is what I used to be able to do. and then all I could fixate my mind on is like recognizing I could not do what I used to be able to do. But I had lots of Sean's that really kind of create this safe culture around me that allowed me to choose to change. It wasn't like the Sean's fixed me. It was that they allowed me, empowered me to change my mindset. And I'm just kind of curious, when you got injured way back when, like what was that like? I mean, did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, I did. When I had the injury, like I said before, I was an athlete, and my life did a complete 180. I went from being super active, being super energetic, being super confident, to now where I feel like all of that was just ripped away. I felt like I lost my whole purpose, my identity. Um, I was paralyzed, started to act out of character. My parents at the time, they tried their best. They tried their absolute best. They got me in therapy. They got me seeing, specialists, everything to try and get me back to myself. But it took time. It took years for me to get back there. And like you said, I've had other people in my life similar to Sean, but regarding the amputation, I think he was the main person. But before, I've had classmates, other family friends, and they helped me to somewhat find myself. But yeah, it was a dark road. I was living in self pity.
Oh
I
yeah.
was feeling sorry for myself. I kept asking, why me? Why this had to happen to me? I was like, I I grew up in a religious home, so I used to blame God. To be honest, I blame God and be like, why did God had to allow this to happen to me? Like, what did I do to deserve this? And it just took time to heal and to really understand that, hey, this is my purpose. It took me a time to find out that everything that happened was meant to happen. If it did happen to me, it would have happened to someone else, and probably they wouldn't have the strength to overcome it as good as I did. So I try to find the positive in it now, but yeah, the early days it was difficult.
Well, you touched on when it comes to sharing your story, hoping that people find are able to find inspiration in that. Do you do much public speaking?
No, I don't. It's something I'm trying to look into right now, but it was a confidence thing before. Before I thought I couldn't articulate myself as best as I could, but since lately I've realized it was all mental. I can do it, so it's something I'm looking into doing right now. So yeah.
Good. That's good. Yeah, and you're right. I believe like what you were saying is all mental. I mean, me being one that uses a wheelchair, me being one that doesn't have triceps, not really full hand dexterity.
Mhm.
There's a lot of physical things that I can't do, but that's not the challenge. The challenge is keep my mind straight. And if you keep your mind straight, I swear that's 90% of the game. And then the rest of it just kind of comes along.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Mhm.
So when you, I guess when people hear your words, I mean, hear your story, it's what, I don't know, because you can't tell someone what they need to do. It's more like you have to encourage and try to empower for them to make stand on their own. So what, I mean, what would you hope? I mean, from your story, when you start sharing it, I mean, what are the things you would hope someone would receive from it?
Uh, there's one word that a lot of people um, use when regarding my story, and I seem to incorporate it in my life, and which is resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I tell my story, I've always heard people, "Oh, you're so strong, you're so resilient," and I'm always so positive. Like I'm always smiling. And the funny story behind me smiling is it started out as a front. Me
Oh,
smiling started out as just my way of coping because I hated how my parents looked when I was in that position. I could see the pain it was, causing them, and I was like, if I could be good, they could be good. So I kept this front where I'm always smiling, always looked happy for the first few years, until eventually it stuck. It's a thing now where I'm just always smiling. I can't stop smiling, and I have this jovial spirit where if I would ask where it's coming from, it would start from like they said, fake it until you make it, and I think that's what I did. I was faking it until now it's just a part of my persona. So yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. There's a book, one of my favorite books is called The Compound Effect, and it talks about habits and those good habits and bad habits, but both they're habits. So like you have a bad habit, it can compound and really make you spiral. But all of a sudden you start incorporating good habits, those also compound on themselves. And it's that I love that. I mean, fake it for make it, that's like the perfect, I don't know. It's funny. It's tongue in cheek, and it's funny. But in this case, it's like you convince yourself to pull yourself out of your own funk.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't. I realize that if you are negative, like if you feel like you're too negative, it actually affects you. You might not think it initially, but over time, it starts to show in your action, and that's what I realized was happening. And I was like, you know what? I need to shift. That I need to be different. So yeah, let's try to do better.
Man, okay. Well, so Shamar, there's a couple of things here I want to throw up on the screen right here, but I also want to be respectful of your time. So first off, everyone that's out here that's listening, I mean, so this is Shamar. Let me put up some Instagram handle. His Instagram handle is shamar.muir. Did I say your name right? Like the last name? I got it. Okay, good. So for those that are listening in on this, let me spell it out. So it's the @ symbol, SHAMAR, and then the period, and then MUIR. And that's for Instagram. And then for TikTok, it's similar, but without the period. It's SHAMAR MUIR. So, Shamar, I wanted to ask you one more question. I mean, one of the things that I love about our brand is it brings people together, and just word of mouth is a powerful thing. And somehow the brand got you and I connected. And I'm just kind of curious, because I don't know the answer. How did you find the brand?
So actually, is when I got my prosthetic leg. So I was in the market looking for shoes because to how long my residual limb is, I can't wear high boots. Most of the shoes I had before, I had to throw them out. And I was talking to a friend, and they mentioned, "Hey, why don't you check out Billy's Footwear?" And I was like, I'd never heard of Billy's Footwear. So I went on Google, went on Instagram, and I found the website and the Instagram. And the first thing I saw was, I don't want to lie, there was a video of someone there trying on a shoe and they zipped it open. And I was like, yeah, that's what I need. That's definitely what I need. Immediately, I was like, I need the shoes. It's going to be life-changing because there's not much I could do. And then I went on the website and I found your video, which I was like, yeah, that even made me want to work on just purchase the shoes from you guys even more. Because I heard your story and I felt like it's similar to mine. I could understand where you're coming from. I felt every word, and I'm like, yeah, this is it. Felt at home.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. That's so heartwarming for me, and because I mean, shoot, I remember. I mean, I broke my neck over 28 years ago. It was 1996, so it's been quite some time, and well, longer than you've been on this planet, dude.
Yeah.
And it really rocked me to the core. It really did, and I had no idea what the future would look like. But you just kind of start small, and it's amazing how that does compound. And I mean, your story, man. I mean, every word you were saying, I just there are parts of it that just resonate with me. And but you just got to keep moving forward. Just don't quit. Stay in the game. Stay in the game. Keep smiling, and count your blessings. So
that is it.
Shamar, anything else to add before we bid our guests adieu?
Just no matter what life throws at you, you can always turn it into an absolutely amazing story. So that's my motto, and yeah, that's what I want to tell everyone today.
Yeah, amen. Well, everyone, thank you, Shamar. Thank you again so much for your time. Everyone else, this was another episode of Open Book. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. And we'll have another episode coming up again real soon. So until then, take care.